Super Bowl 37.
They come to catch another shit. Cannons like the loaded, so it's time to flip the script. Cruising through the bay on that Buccaneer battleship, sold up, screaming out, so buck what you heard. So buck what you heard. So buck what you heard. So buck what you heard.
All right, welcome back to Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. You follow me, I will follow you back. And yeah, even though football is over, we're still talking football, and we will be talking football, and we'll continue to talk football. Hey, I am joined tonight by a special co-host, Michael Pless from Real Bucks Talk. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well, Gene. It's great to be back on here with you. So it feels like old times, back to back weeks. So this is great. And yeah, I mean, a lot's going on in the NFL world. A lot of moves being made. The Buccaneers.
This is just the beginning, though. That's what's so crazy.
Yeah, a lot of good players being let go. The Buccaneers kept two very good players, and themselves, as far as Levante David being re-signed, which is awesome, and tagging Chris Godwin. So those are kind of moves we foresaw. But yeah, this is great. We're only a week away from free agency officially starting.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? The best is yet to come. Mm-hmm. I really believe that Jason Light is just getting started. And a guy that you don't really get to hear a lot about is Mike Greenberg and just what he means to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization. And I mean, I know you could speak to this. I know you've heard me talk about Mickey Loomis, mm-hmm. But I will say this. What I've seen over the past couple of years and how they fixed the salary cap, especially after a Super Bowl win, it makes me excited. I'm excited for, what's coming up next. Because if you go back to 2003, right out, the Bucks win the Super Bowl and they've got all this other stuff going on, and boom, mm-hmm. You're like, what's going to happen next? And it turns out that Tampa is kind of in a bad situation. They've got a second round, third, 2 4s, fifth, and a 6th round pick. So they had the 64, 97, 130, 133, 168, and 205. They had those picks. And then you consider the salary cap situation they had, it just wasn't an ideal situation for the Buccaneers. And I don't know, when you look back at that draft class, draft class was kind of like, I would say mediocre compared to others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely a complete opposite of where we were, back then and now where we are now. So it's like, definitely night and day difference. You have a very smart people at the top, with Mike Greenberg and also Jackie Davidson.
Yes.
Who's brought over. I believe she was actually involved in the Jets, Darrelle Revis contract when he was trying to hold out. That was on Hard Knocks. You can actually see her on there. So shout out to her because she's been a big acquisition. And she does a lot of great things with the contracting and, just structuring it the right way. And her and Mike Greenberg work very well together. So yeah, definitely much better situation. And we're going to see more news pop up, as the days go on here, probably a lot of restructuring of contracts. I think Tom Brady is probably going to be the first one we hear about. Yeah. And then you'll see others, probably Mike Evans, Ali Marpet, maybe Ryan Jensen, Donovan Smith, guys like that could, you could save some money there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we probably need to be quiet because I don't want anybody to know about, this front office. I don't want them to know too much because,
I don't think they're going anywhere. I think, Mike has talked about he loves what he does right now, as far as working the cap. Hasn't really talked about being a GM in the future. So, and then Jackie Davison, I think she would probably be the one I'm probably worried about of leaving. I mean, she's a very talented individual as far as what she can do and what she knows. So that would be the one I worry about losing, but I think they're in good shape. And of course, Jason, I don't think is going anywhere either. So
Yeah, and well, let's dive right into this, and we're going to start out with free agency. We're going to eventually get to the draft, but I do want to start out with free agency.
Yeah.
The NFL announced today that the salary cap for 2021 will be at 182.5 million, and compare that to last year where it was 198.2. That's huge. That is huge. I mean, when you compare the two, and just what you can get accomplished. I mean, especially in free agency. I tell you what, I honestly don't believe that some of those players are here if we had the reverse on the salary cap. So I think the Bucks were in the right place in the right time, and it all fell into place for them.
Yeah, no doubt. And that is a big drop. I mean, you're talking, 10 million plus as far as, lower salary cap. And, you look at our team and we're right there at the 182, or I believe that was before we made these, deals with, Godwin and David. So now we're, I think, a little over like 6 million over the cap. So obviously there's going to be some restructuring, that they have to be compliant by next Wednesday. So it's just going to be interesting. That it goes across the league. I mean, we've seen average cap space for teams this year is 13 million, which is crazy because last year it was closer to like 40 million. So that just shows you like a lot of players, a lot of good players are going to be available, and it's a bad year to be a free agent. So
yeah, it really is. But I think if you're smart, I think you stay where you are and just hope for next year. Hope to play good, solid football and try to be injury free. And then next year, man, they're gonna roll up the bank truck, and you really are going to be setting yourself in a good position. You look at some of these players that have signed. There are players out there that are signing now, and man, just imagine what they would be making next year. So I think a lot of that factors in with agents and how they work these contracts and stuff. I like right now, if we go across the league, man, there are just some crazy moves. Like you talked about Levante David. Levante David is a Buccaneer. Chris Godwin is a Buccaneer. And I expect Shaq Barrett to be a Buccaneer. I don't know how true that is. And if it happens, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I would expect him to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they're going to do everything they can to, structure the deal in a way where kind of similar to Levante David, where he's only making 3.5 million this year as far as his cap hit. And they're probably going to, find a way to structure it where Shaq is making, probably a lesser value in 2021. And then you see those increases that are going to come, the following years. So, yeah, I think there's a good chance he'll be back. I think, obviously, I think they're going to see what exactly his market is and really try to put together a competitive offer where it's close enough and Shaq will be like, okay, I'm going to come back because this is the best fit for me. I love Todd Bowles' defense. I've had my most success as a player here, and why leave to another situation where it could go, pretty drastically wrong instead of, having success here in Tampa.
And that's kind of what we've seen in the past. Dexter Jackson. I remember when Dexter Jackson went to Cincinnati. Donnie Abraham's going to the Jets. And we've seen players that have really good seasons in Tampa and go elsewhere. And it's like these other teams are rebuilding, or these teams aren't set up the same way as Tampa is. Do you think that factors in, or is that more the NFL is a business and you go where the money is? Or do you think that kind of depends on the player himself?
Yeah, I think it's the player, really just, what is his motivation? Obviously you want to get paid and also win at the same time, but, not every situation is like that. You look at Carl Nassib from last year. I mean, he got paid, he got his contract, and, was that the right situation for him? I don't know. It didn't seem like it worked out the best. And he went into you went into a scheme that maybe didn't fit your skill set properly. So really, these guys just have to be smarter in how they, really evaluate the situation, and instead of just looking at that dollar sign at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I've always wondered. Is that how people factor in what they're trying to do? Is it more, I want to get paid, or having gone to a Super Bowl, would you go into another situation where you're having to rebuild? Would you go into a situation where, yeah, you might be the man, but there's nobody else around you to really help you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when losing some of these games, it wears on you and it makes the season drag. And when you have a season like what we saw Tampa have, I would be hard pressed to go to another team and have to rebuild and start all over again.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's a situation you don't want to be as a free agent. I think you want to go into, obviously, and again, are you starting? Are you going to be a backup? I think that all plays into it. What do you expect from this team? And, but yeah, I mean, as far as our guys go, I think they want to be here. They want to be in Tampa. They see the potential to win, do something that's never been done before, and, win back-to-back championships. So really, yeah, I see Shaq Barrett coming back, and, along with, potentially Ndamukong Suh, Rob Gronkowski, and obviously Ryan Suckup. He's the most valuable one. We got to bring him back. So, yeah, and I see in the chat a lot of people are mentioning names. I don't see us adding big names like those, that are available. Hassan Riddick. I see Clowney, Bud Dupree. Unfortunately, I don't see us going after those kind of players.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't have the cap space, number one, and number two, I mean, just you want people that are, you've got your core unit right now. You've got your linebackers, you've got Vita Vea back, you've got JPP, and if you do lose a Shaq Barrett, which is an interesting question that was asked, who do you replace him with, or just a couple of names that pop into your head, somebody that may not be Shaq Barrett, but can come in and contribute and help the team win.
Yeah, I think you look for a similar situation like him. Like you look maybe at a Jordan Jenkins from New York that, is younger and could potentially, maybe have higher production because you'll be around better players next to him. So someone like that, I think, would make sense. Or you could go older. You could go with like a veteran like Marcus Golden, maybe, that maybe won't command too much money, but could still be productive.
Yes.
So players in that kind of range, again, we're going to see more people cut coming up. So it really depends like who's available. How is the market going to be played? Are these guys going to take 1-year deals on, $5 million or less and look to get paid big next year?
Like
so
Leonard
really,
Fournette.
like Leonard Fournette. So that's kind of the market I see playing out. Again, you're going to have the usual free agency frenzy to start off, like guys that get the big numbers, the big contracts. That's going to be your teams like Jacksonville, Indianapolis, all these guys that have cap room to spend, the Patriots. So that will happen to begin with, but I think it's going to get real slow after that because you're going to see a lot of guys just outprice themselves. They're not going to be able to get that contract. So that's what it's going to come down to. And I could see us making some moves after the draft where, you have favorable situation.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things like last year. Nobody saw Leonard Fournette being available, and the Buccaneers just were in the right place, and everything fell into place again, and they were able to grab him. So it's one of those things where it did work out for the Bucs. Everything kind of fell into place. People that were injured were getting healthy at the right time. So I think, just looking at what the general manager was able to do along with the head coach and the quarterback and everybody, they were able to collectively come together and put together a team that, took them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting this year. It's different because of what we're dealing with, the salary cap, like we said earlier. So, I think they're going to value some positions here early before the draft. Obviously, I think they're going to add another running back before they go into, that draft. And And then you look at some other positions, maybe an offensive lineman here and there. Really they want to make sure they're not pigeonholed into a certain position before the draft. So that's why I feel like Shaq's going to be back. They're going to make some more re-signings and then have everything in place for that April draft and be ready for that.
Oh, most definitely. And, just kind of going around the league, I mean, it's just crazy. Dak Prescott getting paid again, is one of those things. I didn't think Dallas was going to pull the trigger on that deal, but I think when he went down and you saw who you had behind him, I've really felt like Jerry Jones didn't have any other choice but to re-sign him, and he really got paid. And then Kenny Vaccaro, he was cut. Let's see, Quentin Jefferson was cut. Quan Alexander from the New Orleans Saints was cut. I know somebody had mentioned his name. Here's a guy that I don't see him coming back to Tampa. I could be wrong about that, but he's one of those players. I just don't see it. With the injuries the catastrophic injuries he's had over the years, and just the way he plays, I mean, he is a talent, but just when you look at what Devin White was like quite the upgrade when you compare the two side by side.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, hold on. Is it? You still hearing it?
Are we good?
Guys,
I hear it less now, but I think it's still.
Guys, if you're hearing an echo, please let me know, and we'll see if we can get that fixed here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of people in the chat. The Bucks will be front runners. I'm used to rooting. So many years being the underdog. Rob G is saying, hopefully we can keep major pieces. Yes, I do see that as a priority to keep what you have. Make sure you take care of what you have and what got you to the Super Bowl in the first place. And then, whatever you can't keep, that's where you rebuild and add. Like Carl Nassib, I know Carl Nassib was a big part in 2019, but the Bucks were able to really do well in free agency and the draft, and just with scheme, and they were able to continue to play at a high level, and they went ahead and they moved forward. So there will be and I can't say that the Bucks are going to get to keep everybody, but if they do, it'll be great. But if they don't, there are players that will be available that will want to come and play in Tampa just based on what they saw last year. So it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think when you're, obviously the big thing is bringing your core together, keeping them as long as you can. So that's definitely going to be the focus. So again, yeah, it's a rare position that we're in because, usually we are going after those big names that, are usually available. But, Jason and his staff have done a better job of, just keeping what they need to keep, letting go of the players that need to be let go, and understanding what works. I think he's learned from his mistakes and understanding that, okay, this is how you build a roster. And, it's paying off.
Yeah. And just imagine, when you look back at where Jason Light started at and you look how he's progressed and continued to get better. And, I would contribute a lot of that to, not a lot, but some of that to Bruce Arians as well. The talent evaluation that they have with coaches, with coordinators. I think they put together a really good coaching staff that works well with the front office. And I think that's been a huge benefit when you compare to other organizations out there in the NFL. And, you can remember me and you used to gripe about this, how dysfunctional the organization was, no direction with the draft picks. And now you're looking at a totally different scenario right now. And I honestly believe, not to get too far into the draft, we're going to just cover that a little bit later on, but this team right now can have the luxury of picking best player on the board at 32 if everything goes according to plan in free agency.
Yeah, that's something we haven't had. So that is, definitely.
Have we ever had that?
Not really. I mean, when you look at it, there's always been some glaring, hole that needs to
Yeah.
be filled, right away. And usually it leaded to, either reaching or, making the wrong pick.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're in a great position to keep this team together. I think they're going to find a way to do it. Again, they're going to have to be very creative, but it's definitely doable. And then once they get to the draft, like you said, being in that position to, take best player available or, trade back or, have the flexibility to really add to this roster and really just focus on adding talent, whether it be whatever position it may be. That's going to be very helpful going forward.
Yeah, and that's the key. You want to keep the same talent level or upgrade if possible. So every opportunity that you get to do that, that should be where that the front office should be really looking. As we're going down the list, I know a lot of people have talked about Gerald McCoy, and I know there was an interview where he said that he would go back to Tampa, and me personally, I mean, if they're able to keep the core, I have a problem with Gerald McCoy, especially when it comes to run defense. That seems to be, even when he was at Carolina, and I got to watch a lot of him when he was at Carolina just to kind of see what he did. And I found that was one of the things was like and I don't know if you could kind of go into what we were talking about before we got on camera. I wish we could, just kind of go back to that. But you talked about his style of play is not conducive for the scheme that the Bucs are running right now.
Yeah, no doubt. There's a reason they cut Gerald McCoy and they replaced him with Ndamukong Suh. And Ndamukong Suh is just a better fit for this scheme and how we run our defense. And people forget that. And that's why, I've talked on the past of my shows on Real Bucs Talk. It's like this defense it's predicated on the middle of the defense. Everything runs through the middle. So when you have defensive linemen, those 3 down linemen that play up front, they have to be able to take on blocks. They have to be able to maintain their gaps, and they allow everyone else benefiting because of what they do. So Gerald McCoy is a guy that is suited for a 4-3 attacking style defense where he's allowed to penetrate because that's what he does best. His number one trait is his get off, and he gets off very well. But what that allows is gaps because he's penetrating into a spot, and it opens up a hole for running back to run through or quarterback to step up into. So unless it's him coming back as a situational pass rusher, then I just don't see it likely. They would rather have William Golston, Vita Vea, and someone else on the field that can even Anthony Nelson that can play that 3 down line kind of position and take up blocks and let JPP and Shaq Barrett benefit from, or Devin White or Levante David, go up on the middle from blitzing. So people, and that's why, and I'll just say this, that's why I don't put, bringing back Shaq Barrett as a huge priority. I didn't. I actually had Ndamukong Suh as a higher priority, bringing him back because of what he means to the defense.
Yeah.
So, they're going to bring back Shaq. I'm confident in that, but it just wasn't huge on the list because basically these guys that play on the edge, all they have to do is win one-on-one matchups. So you can find guys that can do that. And they get a high percentage of opportunities because, they're not facing double teams at all.
Right. And when you look at that style of play and just and how the line holds up, I mean, we saw that what really impressed me was the front line or the defensive line while Vita Vea was out. And it just got even better when he came back because these guys had enough game time to get in there and they were used to each other. And then you bring Vita Vea in and then you have this rotation. And we haven't seen a rotation on the defensive line. I wouldn't even say the Super Bowl era, the Bucs didn't have that type of rotation on the defensive line. And I'm not just saying that for now. I'm just kind of in my mind going back and thinking of the players that played. And then I look at how everything was set up. Will Golston did not get the love that he deserved while, he being here in Tampa for what he did away from the ball, but he was very integral in this defensive line being successful.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you look at the guys like, Nunez, Roches, and McClendon, William Golston, Patrick O'Connor, who they brought back, Anthony Nelson. So, some of these guys won't be back again. I don't know if they're going to bring back guys like Nacho or McClendon, just depending on, cost. Um, but yeah, the rotation between Golston, Vita Vea, and then Ndamukong Suh, JPP playing inside at times, those guys really made a difference. And, they're very important to the run defense and why we're number one against it, because those guys take on, 4 blockers at a time. And it allows, so much opportunity for Devin White, Levante, Shaq and JPP win their matchups. And
It's
that's
like
why.
pick your poison.
Yeah, exactly. And what makes it special is when Vita Vea is in there, because he can win double teams, he can win single teams, he can do it all. And it really makes everyone around him better for that. So, it's again.
I think it was a coming out party for Vita Vea, which is, I didn't really like, because I would say that nobody really knew what Vita Vea was capable of outside of people in Tampa. When you're watching him eat those double teams and freeing up his other players to do what they need to do, nobody really saw that, especially Kansas City. Kansas City had no idea what they were in for when he was coming back and he's at full health and he was able to do what he did. Again, just having him healthy on that defensive line is going to help everybody along that line.
Oh yeah, for sure. He was probably the best player in that game, outside of Shaq Barrett. But I mean, it just shows you what I just said is true, because Vita Vea was in there, Shaq Barrett benefited, and that's why he had 8 pressures and 1 sack. So
yeah, you saw JPP also benefited from it as well.
Yeah.
Again, I think, Vita Vea, what he does, what he means to this defensive line, I see him benefiting whoever we have on the edges. And I think that if you can get somebody to compliment him, I know that there will be a time when Suh will be gone. It's going to be interesting to see who they put next to him next. Mm-hmm. And you would hope that it's somebody that's as aggressive as an Ndamukong Suh, because I think they really feed off of each other as well, with Vea and Suh as well. So
for sure. Yeah, and it's definitely a position like we talked about, before. It's, they definitely need to address it in the draft. And I think, over the next couple of years, I think you're going to see that, where they're going to add some, they definitely need to add some edge prospects and interior defensive line guys that, fit the scheme and that, can do things that, we've seen these guys do before. So, definitely it's going to be a position of investment coming forward, because, Suh probably doesn't have much time left, maybe a year or so. And then you have JPP, who might not play after this year. So yeah, definitely you got to add some pieces there for sure.
Yeah. So again, man, we don't even know. I mean, we just barely scratched the surface on the players that will be available. I think Bucks Nation, whether it's social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, whoever's listening, you kind of have to take a step back and let's see who gets signed first. And then from there, we'll see who they bring in next. And I know a lot of people have talked about Leonard Fournette. I saw it in the chat a few times, and I think we touched on it, but I definitely want to touch on it again. Leonard Fournette wants a paycheck. He's basically feels like he's done what he needed to do. He played well in the playoffs, played well in the Super Bowl, and now he's out to get paid. I don't see him coming back to Tampa. So, I think it's one of these opportunities to bring somebody else in. And I don't want to spoil it, because I do want to discuss running back in the draft a little bit later on. But I will say this. There could potentially be a veteran out there that wants to come in at league minimum and play with Tom Brady just to get a chance to win a Super Bowl. So that could be a potential possibility. So don't ever count that out. That would definitely be something to consider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I think, again, there's going to be a lot of options. I mean, because guys are getting cut left and right. So it's going to be wild, especially just watching the Saints and how they got to get under the cap. That's going to be very interesting. That's like they should have like a reality TV show for that, just to see what happens.
I got to ask you, do you think they'll be anywhere as competitive as they've been in years past?
I think they'll still be a good team. Again, they're still going to have a lot of their core together. I feel just because they're doing restructuring and
I think,
but again, the big drop off is the quarterback play. You know, how is that going to be? How is that going to affect the team? Sean Payton's still a very good coach, even though I don't like him, but he's still a very good coach. And
got to give the devil his due.
Yeah, so they will find a way to still be competitive in this division. You know, along with the other NFC South teams, I think are it's always a battle because they have good talent.
And I think that, throughout the NFC South, there is that issue with cap room. I know Atlanta is struggling with the cap.
They're over the cap. Yep.
Yeah. And we know New Orleans. And then if you listen to the interviews with Matt Rule in Carolina, he's talking about how they're going to be very careful with what they do in free agency. Mm-hmm. And I think they're really trying to build this Carolina Panthers team organically through the draft and with as little free agency as possible. Yeah, you're going to need veterans. I understand that. But any moves that they can make through the draft, I think that's where you're going to see a lot of the changes.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, Carolina, they just, freed up more cap space today. They restructured, McCaffrey and Shaq Thompson. They restructured their deals. So, it's it'll be interesting with them, because I know they want to move on from Teddy Bridgewater. How do they attack the quarterback position? Do they go after Deshaun Watson? So
what do you have to give up to get Deshaun Watson? You got to bet the farm on that.
It's going to be a lot of good players going away. That's for sure.
Because when I look at that team, I mean, Christian McCaffrey is like, remember when you had Olsen, you had Cam Newton, and then you had on the other side, some of the other players that they had on the team as well, Luke Kuechly. And that was they had these names, but they didn't really have the core like what you see with Tampa. And now if you're going to make trades to get Deshaun Watson, that Christian McCaffrey has got to be there's got to be somebody they want, because they're just not going to give up Deshaun Watson that easy.
Right.
I don't even know what is the asking price right now. 2 first-round picks.
Probably more than that. I think it'd probably be 3 first rounds to begin with. So 3 firsts, and then probably a very good player in addition.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would probably be the starting point. But man, and then you have the same thing in Seattle with Russell Wilson, and it's like,
I think they get that worked out. I don't think Russell Wilson goes anywhere. I know he's frustrated. I totally get it. And they really haven't, DK Metcalf I'm trying to think of it other than Aaron Lockett, DK Metcalf. What other wide receivers have they had that have been complimentary for Russell Wilson since he's been there?
Yeah, I mean, not many come to mind. I think they had, I'm trying to remember if they had, no, that was before Russell Wilson. But yeah I mean, not many names come to mind. Trying to think of the one dude who was there with Russell when they were in the Super Bowl. I can't think of his name right now. He ended up leaving due to free agency.
Doug Baldwin would be.
Yeah, Baldwin.
Yeah. Okay, so there's another one. Thank you.
Yeah, he was good, and then just injuries I think happened, and
right
had to retire. But other than that, yeah, not many. Then the offensive line's been so up and down. They kind of get complacent because his ability to escape outside the pocket. It seems like they just don't really put a lot of resources to that, position group, and it ends up hurting them.
Yeah, and that's crazy. I mean, when you think about it, and he does escape a lot. He makes a lot of plays with his legs. He can move the pocket, and he's an accurate passer. But when you're looking at what they're up against in just the NFC West, with Bosa, with Aaron Donald, with JJ Watts over there now. Who's the other guy on the other side?
Yeah, Chandler Jones.
Chandler Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got murderous rows of quarterback killers over there in the NFC West, and he's got to face each one of those teams twice a season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that just, and you don't have any kind of protection or help. I don't know how do you get around that,
Right. Yeah, I don't know how you do it either. So again, this is going to be a crazy offseason. This is going to be something we really haven't seen before. So it's going to be fun to enjoy it and relax. Again, I caution all Bucs fans just to relax because we have a lot of good people at the top taking care of these things. So
yeah, absolutely. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was looking at the New York Giants, and they're talking about they're unsure if they're going to pick up Saquon Barkley's fifth year option.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, it's crazy how I remember he was picked in the first round in 2018, and he was that rookie season was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But he just has not been able to stay healthy. So I don't know how you, they're at a risk right now as to whether they, pick up that fifth year or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the tale of do not take running backs in the top 10 of the draft. Like you don't do it. I mean, even Christian McCaffrey has struggled with his injuries, and he was picked 8th overall. So it's just something, you don't really do, and you don't pay running backs either, because you can find running backs, everywhere, whether it be first, second, third, fourth, fifth round. I
want to kind of get into this because this kind of brings me to my next point, and we're going to dive into the draft a little bit. But Bucs social media, I've heard a lot of people wanting the Bucs to use their first pick to pick up a running back.
Yeah.
And, I mean, to me, you get the best player on the board if it does happen. And it could be a running back, but if you're building the trenches and you're continuously addressing that, the Bucs will not end up where they were over the past 12, 13 years, as long as they're continuously addressing that position and, continuing to get better. I mean, that's one of those things that just concerns me. It's always sits in the back of my head is, are they going to revert back to not addressing the line? But I think that what they need to do right now, I think edge rusher would be my number one priority, me personally.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a position that, you want to get somebody in there, possibly interior defensive lineman, somebody to, that could potentially replace Ndamukong Suh would be a nice acquisition as well.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that, sentiment. It's, it's really how the board's going to fall, and it also depends who we have on the roster. I'm assuming Shaq Barrett's back. I'm assuming Ndamukong Suh is back as well.
Right.
When you look at the draft class and you look at, edge, it has a lot of good players that have top potential to be something, but again, there's not a lot of polished prospects that are ready to play right away. So a lot of them need development, and there's a lot of question marks associated with those players. Defensive tackle class is probably the worst it's been in a long time, so it's not very strong.
Yeah,
and you would have to. I would wait for a defensive tackle later, probably like third round or later, to get a defensive tackle that really fits this scheme, because I think you can find guys like that are bigger, that can take on blocks, do the kind of things that you want in this defense. But
now, these would be like depth pieces when you're talking about going later on in the draft. These are people that you're not expecting to come out and start, but they can come in and contribute and be part of that rotation, correct?
Yeah, correct. And I think there are also guys that, have some upside that could potentially be a starter down the road. But when you look at, and again, in our defense, you're not asking a lot from the three down linemen. What you're asking them to do is take up blocks, like I said. So if they can do that and maintain gaps, then they are a very productive starter for you. You're not asking them to rush the quarterback. Obviously you want to have guys that can do that. It helps your defense even more, but it's not necessarily a need in this scheme. But when you talk about running back at 32, I'm not for it.
I'm with you.
But
And when we're looking at these running backs, I have to ask you, is there anybody that stands out above everybody else? Because this draft is very interesting to me. It kind of reminds me a little bit of 2018, where you had players like Saquon Barkley, you had Rashard Penny, you had Nick Chubb. Trying to remember who else was in that draft class.
I think wasn't McCaffrey in that one as well?
Yeah, I think he was in that draft class as well.
Or no, he was 2017.
2017, yeah.
I apologize.
So it was Saquon Barkley, and then it was Rashard Penny was picked by Seattle, and then there was one more in that draft class. Jeez, who was that? 2018. I don't remember what I had for breakfast.
I think it was like Sony Michel.
Sony Michel. There you go. Yeah. Sony Michel. That's who it was. So you look at them guys, and then you look. I think Ronald Jones was in the second round, and then trying to think who else.
Yeah, I think Nick Chubb.
Yeah, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb was in the second round, and then Ronald Jones. But you see what I'm talking about. It just doesn't. Some of these players did good, and other players, it's just been kind of hit and miss. And Saquon Barkley is a talent. Not taking anything away from that guy. When he was healthy, he was a monster. He was just a monster. But again, I mean, you're risking a lot when you take a running back like that. I mean, I look at Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is a freaking talent, but the best ability is availability. And there have been times where you needed him and he's on the sidelines because he's injured. So, yeah, I get it. And like you said, that's why you don't want to go out and you don't want to pay all that money to a running back, just because of all the things that they go through. And it takes that one play. I think it was Saquon Barkley against the Buccaneers, and the guy's never been the same since.
Yeah, that's for sure. But running backs, again, I'm not for it at 32, but it really just depends on how the board plays out. If Najee Harris and Travis Etienne are staring you at the face, like at 32, maybe you pull the trigger. They are really good, talented backs. They're guys that can, do everything. And would be an upgrade over Ronald Jones, because honestly, they don't love Ronald Jones, and they're not going to give him a second contract, in my opinion, because he's, due for a contract next year.
They want exercise.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a position where you're going to have to add talent to. Obviously I feel like they're going to add a free agent, and then they're going to draft someone, whether it be, first, second, third round, or even later. They're going to draft someone. So, and it really just depends on, what the Bucs want as far as the running back goes. I know they want someone that can do everything, pass, protect, catch the football, run, efficiently. So when you look at it from that standpoint, do you take a guy like Najee, or do you wait for like a Kenneth Gainwell type, or do you wait for like a, what's his name, Felton out of UCLA? Or, Michael Carter out of North Carolina. So, it just really depends on what they want and what they're, weighing those positions versus other positions. Like, do you have a top end edge rusher at 32, like Joseph Asai or Azeez Ojulari or Jalen Phillips? If you're staring one of those guys at, 32, then you probably take one of those. And or do you trade down and then take a running back? Because
there you go. And now see, that would be more ideal right there, because I think right now the Bucs are sitting at 8 picks for this draft, including the compensatory pick that they have.
Right.
You could parlay that into something else. You could easily parlay that into something else, and that will benefit this team. So guys, I mean, I am so I don't want to get too comfortable, but I am too comfortable with Jason Light right now. Just waiting to see what he's going to do with that number 32 pick. I mean, if we look back at Tristan Wirfs and how he moved up, much to the chagrin of all the Bucks Twitter GMs that were out there, moved up and picked up Tristan Wirfs the way he did. And he knew what he had to do. He went in and did it. Vita Vea, similar situation. The way he worked everything with Vita Vea, man, is just nothing short of amazing. So all I'm saying, regardless of who you like or who you feel like the Bucks need to get, you got to have confidence in the process. And I do believe that Jason Light is going to get the best player available, a player that will benefit the Bucks long after, Tom Brady's gone or, some of your other players are gone. He's, getting a player that you can keep in there that will continue to get better.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And no, I see that point there. I mean, and I'm not saying Ronald Jones is a bust.
No, not at all. I mean, we were all for Ronald Jones when he was drafted, and I still believe that he's a talent, but just not for what Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians are trying to do here.
Yeah, and it's just a philosophy. Like, you just don't pay running backs, and it's just and I think Jason Light learned from that because he paid Doug Martin, and that was a mistake. And it's something that he's not going to do, and that's probably why he drafted Keyshawn Vaughn, in the third round last year, because he knew, Rojo probably not going to be with us much longer. Yeah, and you got to continue to invest in that position because definitely. These guys, they just don't last very long. You look at, Leonard Fournette. I mean, we thought he was going to be out of the league, but again, he had a nice resurgence with the Bucks, and we'll see what he does going forward, and he'll probably find a new team and be successful. But a lot of these guys, they don't have that kind of story. If they're done, they're done. Not everyone's a Frank Gore where he just lasts forever.
Yeah, those are talents that you don't see very often, and that's another thing. When you look at these teams, look at Adrian Peterson, he still wants to play. Yeah. Just guys like that you just don't see very often. I think, what did he say? He's going after Emmitt Smith's record or something to that effect. So he's continuously plugging away. And again, it just kind of goes back to what we were talking about. And this was a great point right here. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was the number 45 pick in the draft. And, they said he was a bust. They basically said, this guy's not going to make it. And you look at what he's done with the right system, right quarterback, and the right, just basically the right situation. He has made the most of his opportunities. So, again, they're just, it just kind of depends on the opportunity they're given, I guess.
Yeah, a lot goes into it. Scheme, players around you, just fit overall and how you're utilized, and Ronald Jones, I think, again, he's a good running back. And I think what he's trying to say, don't bring in older players. And I agree with that. Yeah. Don't bring in these guys that are, past their prime. I think,
like Shady.
Yeah. Like Shady McCoy or Adrian Peterson to even mention. I know he wants to be here, but so yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point too. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. He's not. I don't think he's a special talent. So you don't pay him that kind of money.
100%. I totally agree with that. I mean, you have to really, you have to be really sure to bring somebody like that in. Shady came in, and if I could ask, just in your personal opinion, just because we're kind of back on free agency, how much did the Bucks benefit from having a LaShawn McCoy on this team? Because I know that they kept him around. They could have easily cut him. But how did he benefit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, regardless of how many touches he had or what he did?
Well, I think, obviously, locker room perspective, he helped a ton. Just the leadership and being able to tell guys like Rojo and Keyshawn and Leonard Fournette even, just what to look for. So I think that was a valuable contribution. And maybe they look to add someone like that again. Maybe it's a James White. Maybe it's, another guy like maybe Rex Burkhead, or, just someone that has that experience, or that, good success in the league to really help these guys out. And but we'll see. I definitely feel like they're going to add a free agent there, and they're also going to draft a running back just to really make that position group more formidable going forward, because they really need a guy that can do everything, guy that can catch the ball, pass protect, run, efficiently. And Rojo, again, he's shown flashes, but it's just not there consistently. And maybe he does take that next jump this year. And
I think the pass catching is what is holding him back.
Oh,
Because
definitely. And pass protection.
Yeah, exactly. And you need that, especially with a Tom Brady. You do need that consistent pass protection. And there are just, if it was just all about running, his style of running, he's a violent runner. I love the way he attacks the hole. And I think he's a guy that, that's the kind of running back you want. But when you look at some of the other important factors in being a running back in this offense, you have to be able to catch the ball. You have to be able to catch the ball, turn, and get yards after the catch, or stretch the chains, or ultimately making sure that you are catching the ball and you're holding onto the ball. So, we've seen Ronald Jones, we've seen him make catches, and then other times we've seen him balls that just hit him right in the hands and he doesn't catch it. So that inconsistency, I think, is what's really going to hurt him. I would really hope that he works hard on that piece of it, and just does as much as he can, because I've liked him since the draft, and I've wanted him to succeed. But again, if it's affecting this team to where you're 1st and 10 and you could be 1st and 8 and your running back drops the ball, you can't have that. Yeah. There are so many teams out here that are competitive, and that could be the play that extends a drive right there. And if you don't have that on a consistent basis, that's a problem. And you do need to get somebody in there to make things work. So all I'm saying is I love Ronald Jones. I love what he does, but you need consistency in that running back position, whether it's pass blocking, whether it's catching, or whether it's running the ball. You have to have those facets in this Bruce Arians, Byron Leftwich offense.
Yeah, no doubt. And just look at the usage level of how they use the running backs. Like we're a committee type of running back system, so it's really not important to pay running back at a high value salary. And you look at Arians' past teams. I mean, all of them had that kind of committee style running back tandem where he's got at least 3 like guys,
David Johnson and
Andre Ellington.
Yeah, there you go.
And he also had, I forget the other guy's name that they had, but they always had at least 3 guys that, kind of rotated in and out, or it'd be like a 1-2 punch. And that's what we saw last year with Fournette and Rojo. Yeah. But, really he wants a guy that can do everything like we just said, because it is a passing team first. And why not? Because you have strengths there. I mean, you should throw the football. So it just makes a lot of sense to have guys that can catch it and then run, effectively when needed.
Yeah, absolutely. So for you, I mean, if and again, we don't know what's going to happen, but I always enjoy doing this because I do this myself. For you, if you had your choice and your core gets signed, all the players that we've mentioned get signed, who were you wanting in the draft? Would you want me, like, let me go, and I'll go first. I would be looking for an edge rusher, number one. And second, I'd be looking, if I could find somebody, a defensive tackle, somebody that you could keep in that rotation, that might be somebody I would look at as well. What about you? I mean, just that scenario where you've signed, all your players are signed. You can either get best player on the board, you could move back and get somebody, or you could just pick somebody at 32. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the same boat that you're in, but I would say, yeah, definitely edge rusher. If a guy like Joseph Asai or Ojulari, Jalen Phillips, Ronnie Perkins, any of those kind of guys that fall to you at 32, I think I would be happy with those. Yeah. I think my second option would be look to trade down. If you can
Yes.
trade down and pick up more picks, I think that'd be ideal. And if you can't do that, then I would lean towards taking a high interior offensive line prospect, whether it be Landon Dickerson or Creed Humphrey. One of those two guys I'd be very happy with.
I like Humphrey.
Yeah, Humphrey and Dickerson are very good. Kind of similar backgrounds. They both come from wrestling, and they just know how to win up front, and they're good leaders. And so I'd be on board with one of those guys because you need a replacement eventually for Ryan Jensen.
Yeah.
And it's looking towards the future. So I think that's, the best time to do that. So that would kind of be my game plan, but we'll see what happens. Again, I think they're going to have a good player available for them at pick 32.
And the one thing that really gives me confidence is they've done very well with the offensive linemen that they've picked up, from Alex Kappa to Tristan Wirfs and everybody in between that they've been able to bring in, that have been able to Stenny came in, and bringing somebody like that in, and he's able to plug and play. So it's really, to me, exciting. I can't stress this enough, guys, to see what Jason Light's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
It just is, because you know that he's going to put this team in a good position just based on his body of work over the past couple of years.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's just his approach has been much better. I think he understands he's got to trust his staff around him. So that's been it's just been better processing. Yeah. Everything's just been more clean, more communicated, on the same page. And we didn't see that.
Proud of this organization,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely does. I mean, when you go from 2014 and you see where there was just a lot of like just not communicating at all. There was a lot of up and down inconsistency throughout the plan, because you look at the free agency and then you look at the draft. 2015 to 2016, the process obviously went south because 2016 draft was terrible. So yeah, it was bad. But then, after 2016, the process started to get back on track. It seemed like he learned something. And then, 2018, 2019, 2020 have been much better. So yeah, definitely a better plan in place. And yeah, it's going to be fun. Again, it's going to suck us, it's going to suck for us as fans, have to wait that long. We're not used to that. You have to wait at least 3 hours or so before you're up.
I know, but to me, the cool thing is you don't have to rush home right away.
That's true. And you can enjoy it. You can enjoy other teams making mistakes. So that's fun. And, it'll be exciting to watch and just sit back and, don't really have a lot of stress going on. You just wait till your pick's up, and then who knows, maybe we trade out of that pick and then you have to wait, more, for the next round. So
I would be good with that, just to see all the players, because like I said, right now you're sitting at 8 picks in this draft, and you could turn 8 picks into more picks. Man, that's exciting right there when you think about it. One player that we haven't talked about, and I'm curious again, and I know there are some people that haven't heard your thoughts on this, but OJ Howard. Mm-hmm. What do you do with OJ Howard? Because he's one of those guys. I love his ability. I love his talent. I love what he could potentially do, but the best ability is availability. And unfortunately, we have not seen that since, he's been drafted. So what do you do with a player like that? Do you just go ahead and ride it out and see what he turns into, or how does this all work for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's OJ Howard is it's tough. It's a tough call because he's got so much talent. He's been showing flashes that he can put it together, and I thought he was on the brink of that last year. And then, the injury happens, and it's like why? And so, I mean, they have a decision to make. I think they definitely, exercise the option, or I think they've already have. It's just about it becoming guaranteed, and it'll make around, $6 million or what you have there. So, yeah, I guess you let it play out and, see what happens after, this season. So, And, if you don't re-sign him, then, potentially get a comp pick or something like that. But again, and that's another thing, like the tight end position is not a huge,
It's a luxury for us.
it's not a huge priority. And,
Yeah.
and the grand scheme of the offense is what I'm saying. It's like, ideally they're there to block and they're there to, catch their targets when they do come their way,
Right.
whether that's running down the seam or, just catching underneath stuff. So, but really they are blocking first because they are that extra offensive lineman. And they do a lot in the run game because our tight ends. Yeah.
And that's the big thing with OJ Howard, because he's one hell of a blocker. He is. And he's a very physical tight end when he's in there. But I wouldn't compare him to Gronk, but he's one of those guys. He's still a very talented blocker. And, he's a guy that when he's healthy, I wouldn't want anybody else on this team. But, when you can't keep him on the field, especially when you need him, because I really believe that if OJ is healthy, there are some games that the Bucs lost, they wouldn't have lost had he been available to play.
Right. No, I agree with that. And then, it's going to be interesting with the tight end position. I mean, that's a lot of intrigue there because you have guys. Do you keep Cameron Brate? Do you bring back Gronk? All these things. It's like,
and Brate has been so consistent catching the ball. I mean, he's made a believer out of Tom Brady, and Tom Brady, was going to him in the playoffs. You saw more of that connection between those two guys. It took him a little bit longer, but he realized what he had with Brate, and he really utilized that.
Oh, for sure. Like they started using him as a receiver. And, that's his strength. That's where he, has success. He's not an inline, tight end because he can't really block very well. He's gotten better at it, but again, it's just more of an effort thing for him. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And do they draft like a tight end this year? That's something to look out for. Again, I haven't really dived into the tight end class. I know it's kind of
so much of a luxury though. I mean,
yeah, well, I'm not saying like first round. I'm saying later on, 5th, 6th, 7th round. Do you add another tight end or, I saw they brought back Tanner Hudson and, probably feel Tanner Hudson could maybe replace Cam Brate, and then you have Anthony Auclair, who's a free agent. Do you bring him back? It's like, I don't know.
Tanner Hudson, I had big hopes for him. I've seen him in preseason. He's one of those preseason superstars. Yeah. But, when it's come right down to it, there have been opportunities for him to really, get his name out there by making plays. And, he's just been kind of inconsistent. The one constant that I will say in that tight end room has been Cameron Brate. I mean, out of all of them, other than I would say Gronk, I can't compare the two because Gronk blocks like an offensive lineman, but he can still catch the ball, and he just gives defensive coordinators nightmares trying to figure out how to take care of him. So and again, they're two totally different types of tight end. But again, when it's money time, Brate has shown that he'll bring that ball down, regardless of the hit or whatever. And he's been valuable to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going back to Jameis Winston when he was quarterbacking his team.
Yeah, for sure. And I see a lot of people in the chat saying, try to trade him. As far as OJ Howard is concerned, I just don't see it. He doesn't have a lot of value right now. And you're coming off an Achilles injury, and that's a tough injury to come back from. It's like, is he going to be 100%? It's like, so yeah, I don't know. OJ is going to be the big mystery, of this offense going forward.
Yeah, G Vegas brought up something really interesting. He said that if OJ plays all next year without missing a game, it'll make for an interesting conversation in the offseason.
Yeah, definitely.
He's setting himself up to make some money this year, not this season, but the next season coming up.
Right. Yep.
Well, dude, I can't believe it. We've been on here for an hour.
Mm-hmm. I know, so much knowledge going around.
Yeah, man, for real. And especially the chat. I love the chat. And these guys, when they come in, it's interesting because I've been on other podcasts and those people are in there fighting with each other or whatever. But I've noticed that, whenever I'm in this chat. Everybody's like, okay, I see what your point is. Here's my counterpoint. And people are like adults, and I appreciate that, man. And that's, that's always greatly appreciated. Will the Brewer, OJ Healthy is a big F. Hey, you never know, man. He could turn it around. I didn't think Tom Brady was coming to Tampa, so shows what I know. I just want to take a moment to shout out Smack Apparel and everything that they do. I'm wearing the In Bruce We Trust shirt tonight. I also want to thank Bucks Report. Bucks Report has made so much possible for us. You can catch Pless. I know that they dropped Michael Pless's show, Real Bucks Talk. Or, if you're not following him, get on Twitter, get on YouTube and follow him, please. It's a must. If you're a Bucks fan and you're interested to know who's doing what with the draft or following him during the draft, get on YouTube, follow Real Bucks Talk on YouTube, and definitely follow Real Bucks Talk on Twitter as well. You will not be disappointed, I promise you. I enjoy interacting with him during draft time. I think it's one of my favorite things to do. Regardless of what else I've got going on, I always make time to follow him. Plus, you're great, man. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, Gene. I got to echo again.
I don't know. I'll have to look into that. You still hear it?
Yeah.
How about now?
Just a little bit. Hello? Check one.
Yeah. How about now?
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay.
But like you're saying, I agree. It's just fun. We have fun at Real Bucks Talk. It's just fun breaking down guys, and like Gene said, you can check us out on YouTube, Twitter, all the social media. Just search Real Bucks Talk, and you can find us there. And yeah, we're just diving into draft right now. We got a lot of content up, so really attacking the edge rushers. As you can see, that's the position that we want them to draft. So we just actually did 3 videos tonight before I came on for this show. So we'll have those coming out probably over the next couple of days. So yeah, it's just you learn something new, I think, on Real Bucks Talk, and that's what we try to present.
Absolutely.
It's just really telling people why and telling how, and really just showing how everything is done. All
right. And guys, thank you so much. If you get a chance, if you're not following me, go out onto YouTube and hit that subscribe and like button. At Buck What You Heard on YouTube. Hit me up on Twitter at Buck What You Heard. You follow me, I will follow you back. One thing that I do want to say, I do have a surprise. I'm doing an NFC South show tomorrow, and I've got delegates from the Falcons, the Saints, the Carolina Panthers, and I do have a delegate that's representing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll be the moderator. We're going to go around because it's always good to know what the other teams are doing, and it'll be on at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So please be sure to check us out because it's going to be fun just being able to do that. Football is a microcosm of the world, and I've met some really cool people, from other teams that, I get to hang out and talk with. And, if you get the right people, they'll tell you, oh, I like this guy. Like a lot of people love Devin White. A lot of people don't understand why Levante David has not been to enough Pro Bowls. A lot of people just appreciate the players that the Bucks have. So, it's just what it is. And Nestor, no, I don't delete subscribers. You guys, I genuinely care about all subscribers, even the trolls. I love you guys too. But no, all joking aside, no, I do enjoy talking football, and I love talking football with people that hey, they can listen to your opinion, but they can give their opinion. So I think that's what gets missed a lot on social media, and that's why I try to make it a safe place for everybody when you come on Buck What You Heard, regardless of whether I agree with you or disagree with you. Like my man Eric talking about. He was talking about Aaron Jones possibly coming to Tampa. That's your opinion. I understand that, but no, it's not going to happen. Right. And, I think it's only fair. I think that we all need, you're investing your time in sports. You need a voice, a place where you can voice your opinion without being criticized. And I want to make sure that I provide that for everybody. So Again, shout out to you guys. I appreciate you, Smack Apparel, and of course, Bucks Report. You guys are great. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Again, be sure to check us out tomorrow, same time. We'll be doing the same thing, and we're going to have some fun. You can get some good information from some of these guys, from all of these guys, I should say, as we talk about the NFC South. Oh, one more thought. It's crazy that almost over the last decade, every team in the NFC South has been to the Super Bowl, and every team in the AFC South has had the first overall pick. Crazy. Crazy. Anyway, I'm out of here, and you guys have a great night, and you're greatly appreciated, and just be safe.